In the hours between midnight and dawn, when the world holds its breath and dreams float like silver mist through sleeping minds, there exists a magic that daylight cannot touch. It is the magic of moonbeams dancing on still water, of ancient oaks whispering secrets to the wind, and of footsteps so light they barely disturb the dew-kissed grass. This is the hour when Artemis walks, long before alarm clocks and streetlights claimed the night, when humans still remembered how to listen. To the language of stars, the goddess Artemis would descend from her celestial palace to wander the earth. She came not as the fierce huntress of legend, bow drawn and eyes ablaze with divine fire, but as something gentler, a keeper of peaceful dreams, a guardian of the quiet hours when even the most restless souls could find their rest. Tonight, as silver moonlight spills across the ancient hills of Greece, like liquid starlight, Artemis feels the familiar pull in her immortal heart. It begins as a whisper, soft as butterfly wings against her consciousness, growing stronger until it becomes an irresistible song that calls her earthward. The mortals below are troubled, their sleep fitful and full of shadows. She can sense their unease rippling through the ethereal realm, like stones cast into still water, and her compassionate spirit cannot bear to leave them uncomforted. Rising from her throne of polished moonstone, Artemis moves with the fluid grace of wind through tall grass. Her palace, built from crystallized starlight and held together by the dreams of every creature that has ever sought refuge in the night, shimmers around her like captured aurora. The walls breathe with a gentle luminescence, pulsing in rhythm with the distant heartbeats of sleeping mortals far below. Here, in this sanctuary between earth and sky, time moves differently. A moment can stretch into an hour of perfect peace, or a century can pass in the space between one heartbeat and the next. Her silver sandals, woven from moonbeams and the sighs of content dreamers, barely whisper against the floor of pearl and opal as she walks to the great window that looks down upon the world through glass made from frozen dewdrops. She gazes at the landscape below, rolling hills clothed in olive groves, small villages nestled in valleys like sleeping children, and winding paths that seem to glow faintly in the moonlight, as if remembering the footsteps of ancient pilgrims who once walked them in search of peace. The goddess herself is a vision of serene beauty that would make poets weep and artists lay down their brushes in defeat. Her hair falls in waves of silver white, not the stark silver of old age, but the warm, lustrous silver of moonlight on snow, of pearls fresh from the sea, of starlight caught in spider silk. It moves around her like liquid light, sometimes seeming solid enough to touch, other times appearing to dissolve into the very air around her. When she is deeply moved or concentrating, tiny stars appear to sparkle within its depths, as if her emotions were too vast to be contained by mere mortal form. Her eyes are the color of deep forest pools, where moonlight has settled to rest, not quite blue, not quite silver, but something in between that shifts and changes like water reflecting the night sky. They hold within them all the gentleness of a mother deer watching over her fawn, all the wisdom of countless centuries spent observing the hopes and fears of mortals, and all the infinite compassion of one who has chosen to dedicate her immortal existence to bringing comfort to troubled souls. Her gown appears to be woven from the night itself, midnight blue at its deepest folds, fading to silver at its edges, with tiny points of light scattered throughout like captured stars. It moves with her breathing, flowing like water, like wind, like the gentle tide of sleep that washes over the weary at day's end. The fabric seems almost alive, responding to her emotions and the needs of those she encounters, sometimes growing more radiant to provide comfort, other times becoming nearly transparent to avoid frightening timid woodland creatures. But it is not her divine beauty that makes Artemis truly magnificent. It is the aura of absolute peace that surrounds her, like a gentle embrace. Those who encounter her, whether human or animal, god or spirit, immediately feel their fears melt away like frost before the morning sun. Anger transforms into understanding, sorrow into hope, restlessness into the deepest, most refreshing calm they have ever known. She carries with her the essence of every peaceful moment that has ever existed. The contentment of a cat sleeping in a sunbeam, the tranquility of a mountain lake at dawn, the serenity of a mother's lullaby in the deep of night. As she prepares for her earthly journey, Artemis extends her hand toward the window, and the crystalline surface dissolves like morning mist, leaving only the cool night air and the vast expanse of star-filled sky. She steps forward, and her form begins to shimmer and change, becoming less solid, more like concentrated moonlight, given shape and purpose. This transformation is not dramatic or violent. It happens as naturally as breathing, as gently as the transition from wakefulness to sleep. Her descent is a thing of wonder. She does not fall, but rather flows downward, like a stream of liquid starlight, her form weaving between clouds that part respectfully before her passage. The wind carries her scent, night blooming jasmine, cool mountain springs, and something indefinable that speaks directly to the soul's deepest longing for peace. Night birds pause in their flight to watch her pass, their hearts suddenly filled with such profound contentment that they forget for a moment their endless search for food and shelter, remembering instead only the pure joy of existing in this beautiful world. Below, in the small village of Lycaon, nestled between two gentle hills, covered in ancient olive trees, the people sleep uneasily. Old Theron, the village baker, tosses and turns on his simple straw mattress, his weathered hands clenching and unclenching as his dreams replay the day's worries. Will there be enough grain for the winter? Will his aging body continue to serve him through another season of dawn to dusk labor? His wife Elena sleeps fitfully beside him, her brow furrowed with concerns about their daughter Melania, who has been quiet and withdrawn since her betrothal to a young man from the neighboring village. A good match by all accounts, but one that will take her far from the only home she has ever known. In a modest house at the village's edge, young Marcus lies wide-eyed in his bed, staring at the thatched roof above him, while his mind races with thoughts too large for his 12-year-old heart to contain. He has been having the dreams again, visions of places he has never seen, of people speaking in languages he does not understand, of a vast and wonderful world that stretches far beyond the hills that border his small existence. The dreams fill him with a longing so intense it feels like homesickness for a place he has never been, and he cannot understand why his heart yearns so desperately for adventures that his rational mind tells him are impossible. Even the animals sense the disturbance in the natural rhythm of rest. In the olive groves, a family of deer stands alert despite the late hour, their delicate ears twitching at sounds only they can hear. The night birds call to each other with unusual frequency, their songs carrying notes of anxiety rather than their typical peaceful warbling. Something in the very air seems unsettled, as if the approaching dawn carries with it changes that none of them are ready to face. It is then that Artemis touches the earth for the first time in many mortal years, her silver sandals making contact with a hillside meadow carpeted in tiny white flowers that bloom only in moonlight. The moment her feet touch the ground, a wave of tranquility spreads outward, like ripples on a pond. The restless deer lower their heads to graze peacefully. The anxious birds settle their wings and begin to sing soft, drowsy melodies. Even the olive trees seem to sigh with relief, their leaves rustling with a sound like gentle rain. The goddess pauses, allowing herself a moment to reconnect with the physical world she loves so dearly. Every blade of grass beneath her feet, every flower petal that brushes against her gown, every whisper of wind that stirs her luminous hair, all of it speaks to her of the incredible beauty and fragility of mortal existence. Here, in this realm, where time moves in one direction, and every moment is precious because it cannot be reclaimed, she finds a poignancy that her immortal palace cannot provide. She begins to walk, her path taking her down the hillside toward the sleeping village. Her steps are so light that she leaves no tracks. Yet everywhere she passes, the very earth seems to settle into deeper peace. Night-blooming flowers turn their faces toward her as she moves, as if she were a gentle moon walking among them. Small creatures, field mice, sleepy rabbits, even the insects that normally buzz with tireless energy, pause in their activities to watch her pass, their tiny hearts filled with a contentment they have never known. As she approaches the village, Artemis can feel the troubled dreams of its inhabitants, like tangible things pressing against her consciousness. Each restless sleep, each anxious dream, each moment of midnight wakefulness calls to her compassionate heart. She sees them not as separate individuals, but as part of a greater tapestry of human experience, each thread precious, each pattern meaningful, each life deserving of peace and comfort. The village streets, normally dark, save for the occasional oil lamp left burning in a window, begin to glow with a soft, silvery radiance that seems to emanate from the very stones beneath her feet. It is not bright enough to wake the sleepers, but just warm enough to penetrate their dreams, carrying with it the promise that they are not alone in their midnight hours, that someone watches over them with infinite tenderness and care. Artemis pauses at the first house she encounters, a small cottage where she can sense the presence of an elderly woman whose sleep is broken by pain in her aging joints. The goddess extends her hand toward the dwelling, and moonbeams, visible only to divine eyes, stream from her fingers like silver ribbons. They flow through the walls as if the solid timber and stone were no more substantial than morning mist, seeking out the source of discomfort. Inside, old Penelope stirs in her sleep as warmth spreads through her arthritic hands and knees. This constant ache that has been her nighttime companion for so many years fades to nothing, replaced by a sensation of floating weightlessly in warm, healing water. Her troubled expression smooths into one of perfect peace, and for the first time in months, she falls into the deep, restorative sleep that her body desperately needs. Moving on, Artemis approaches the baker's house, where both Theron and Elena continue their restless slumber. The goddess can see their dreams as clearly as if they were written in light across the night sky. Theron's anxious visions of empty grain stores and disappointed customers. Elena's worried imaginings of her daughter alone and friendless in a strange village far from home. With a gesture so gentle it barely disturbs the air, Artemis breathes across the threshold of their home. Her breath carries with it the essence of all peaceful mornings, all successful harvests, all loving reunions. It seeps through the wooden door and settles over the sleeping couple like the world's softest blanket. Theron's dreams transform, where before he saw empty storage rooms and worried faces. Now he dreams of golden wheat swaying in gentle breezes, of ovens filled with perfect loaves that fill his shop with the most wonderful aromas, of customers who smile and thank him not just for bread, but for the love and care he bakes into every single creation. The lines of worry fade from his face as he sinks deeper into truly restful sleep. Beside him, Elena's troubled visions of her daughter's future dissolve like sugar in warm milk. Instead, she dreams of Melania laughing with new friends, of a young husband who looks at her with the same devotion that Theron still shows after 20 years of marriage, of grandchildren who will run through olive groves and learn the old songs and keep alive the traditions that have sustained their family for generations. Her sleeping hand relaxes its grip on the blanket, and a small smile curves her lips as she dreams of letters from her daughter filled with joy and stories of her new life. But it is at young Marcus's house that Artemis pauses longest, for in his restless sleep, she recognizes something that touches her immortal heart more deeply than simple worry or physical discomfort. Here is a soul that yearns for something greater, a spirit that has outgrown its current boundaries and dreams of horizons yet unexplored. His is not the anxiety of age or the practical concerns of daily survival, but the deep spiritual restlessness of one who senses that life holds mysteries and wonders beyond anything he has yet imagined. Standing beneath his window, Artemis gazes up at the small opening where moonlight streams across Marcus's wakeful face. She can see him there, propped up on one elbow, staring out at the star-filled sky with eyes that hold both longing and confusion. He does not see her. Mortal eyes cannot perceive her unless she wills it. But some part of his soul recognizes her presence, for his restless turning finally ceases, and he lies still, though sleep continues to elude him. The goddess considers carefully. This one requires more than simple comfort or the soothing of immediate concerns. This young soul carries within it the potential for something magnificent, perhaps not in the way the world typically measures greatness, but in the deeper sense of a life fully lived, a spirit fully awakened to all the beauty and wonder that existence has to offer. She raises her hand toward his window, and as she does so, her form becomes more visible, though still translucent and ethereal. Slowly, so as not to startle him, she allows him to see her, not in her full divine glory, which would overwhelm any mortal mind, but as a gentle, luminous figure that seems to be made of moonlight and stardust and all the peaceful moments he has ever known. Marcus's eyes widen, but he feels no fear. How could he, when every fiber of his being suddenly resonates with the most profound sense of rightness he has ever experienced? This is what his dreams have been reaching toward. This is the source of the beautiful homesickness that has plagued his young heart, not a place or a person or an adventure, but this, the recognition that the world is far more magical, far more full of wonder and mystery and gentle magic than he had ever dared to hope. "Do not be afraid," Artemis whispers, and her voice is like wind chimes made of crystal, like water flowing over smooth stones, like the sound of peace itself given voice. "I am here because your dreams have called to me, young one. Your heart seeks something that it cannot name, does it not?" Marcus finds his voice, though it comes out as barely more than a whisper. I dream of places I've never seen, of people I've never met, of a world so much larger than..." He gestures helplessly at the familiar confines of his small room, his village, his known world. Artemis nods with infinite understanding, her silver hair catching starlight as it moves. "The soul remembers what the mind has forgotten, dear child. Before you were born into this earthly form, your spirit dwelt among the stars, and it carries within it the memory of all possibilities, all wonders, all the beauty that exists beyond the borders of any single life." She drifts closer to his window, her presence filling the small room with the gentle radiance of moonbeams on water. "Your dreams are not restlessness, Marcus. They are remembrance. They are your soul's way of telling you that this world, this beautiful, mysterious, endlessly magical world, is far grander than you have yet discovered." "But I'm just a village boy," Marcus says, his young voice heavy with a sadness that breaks the goddess's compassionate heart. "I'll never see those places. I'll never meet those people. I'll live and die in these same hills, and the world will remain as small as it's always been." Artemis smiles then, and her smile contains all the warmth of summer afternoons and crackling hearth fires and a mother's embrace after a long day. "Oh, my dear child, how little you understand the true nature of adventure. Do you think that wonder exists only in distant lands? Do you believe that magic lives only in places you have never been?" She extends her hand toward him, and though she does not touch him physically, Marcus feels as though he is being lifted, cradled in arms made of starlight and infinite tenderness. His perspective shifts, and suddenly he is no longer lying in his bed, but standing beside the goddess in his moonlit room, seeing his familiar world through her divine eyes. "Look," she whispers, and as she speaks, the ordinary walls of his cottage become transparent as morning mist. Beyond them, Marcus sees not the simple village he has known all his life, but something transformed. The olive groves pulse with ancient wisdom, their twisted trunks holding stories that stretch back thousands of years. Each tree is a library of memory, each leaf a page inscribed with the experiences of every creature that has ever sheltered beneath its branches. The winding path that leads from his house to the village center glows with a soft, pearl-like luminescence, and Marcus realizes he is seeing not just the physical pathway, but the invisible threads that connect every soul who has ever walked it. He sees his own footsteps mingled with those of his ancestors, his neighbors, strangers who passed through generations ago, all part of an endless tapestry of human experience that spans centuries. "Every place holds infinite worlds within it," Artemis continues, her voice painting pictures in the air between them. "Every person you pass on these familiar streets carries within their heart stories that could fill lifetimes with wonder. Every flower in your mother's garden, knows secrets that philosophers have spent centuries trying to understand. As she speaks, the very air around them shimmers with possibility. Marcus sees his elderly neighbor Demetrius, not as the quiet old man who sits by his doorway each evening, but as the young soldier who once walked these same paths with his heart full of songs and stories from distant battlefields. He sees Sophia, the weaver, not just as the woman who creates beautiful cloth, but as the keeper of patterns that connect her to an unbroken line of craftswomen stretching back to the very dawn of civilization. But what about the places in my dreams? Marcus asks, his voice filled with wonder, but tinged still with longing. The great cities and vast oceans and mountains that touch the sky. They exist, Artemis assures him, and perhaps one day your feet will carry you to them. But they are not more real, not more magical, not more worthy of wonder than the hill where you played as a small child, or the stream where you've caught fish with your father, or the olive grove where you've spent so many afternoons reading beneath the dappled shade. She gestures toward his window, and beyond it, Marcus sees something that takes his breath away. The landscape of his childhood is revealed in its true form, not as a small, insignificant corner of a vast world, but as a perfect microcosm of all existence. In the dewdrop on a single blade of grass, he sees the reflection of entire galaxies. In the song of a nightingale, he hears echoes of music that resonates through every corner of creation. In the faces of his sleeping neighbors, he sees the entire spectrum of human experience: love and loss, hope and fear, joy and sorrow, all the emotions that have driven the greatest stories ever told. The secret, Artemis whispers, is not in traveling to magical places, but in learning to see the magic that already surrounds you. Not in meeting extraordinary people, but in recognizing the extraordinary nature of every soul you encounter. Not in finding wonder somewhere else, but in opening your eyes to the wonder that has been your companion all along. As she speaks these words, Marcus feels something settling in his chest, not the heavy weight of disappointed dreams, but the light, warm sensation of a puzzle piece finding its perfect place. The restlessness that has plagued him begins to transform into something else entirely, a deep, abiding curiosity about the world he already inhabits, an eagerness to discover all the stories and secrets and small miracles that have been waiting patiently for him to notice them. Will I remember this? He asks, knowing somehow that this magical moment cannot last forever, that dawn will come and with it the return to his ordinary, mortal perspective. You will remember what you need to remember, Artemis says gently. Perhaps not the details of our conversation or the sight of me standing here in your room, but you will remember the feeling, this sense of connection, this knowledge that you are part of something vast and beautiful and endlessly meaningful. You will remember that every day holds the potential for discovery, every person the possibility of friendship, every moment the chance to witness something wonderful. She begins to fade then, becoming once again the translucent, ethereal figure she was when she first appeared. Sleep now, dear child. Let your dreams carry you not to distant lands, but deeper into the mystery and beauty of the life you have been given. Tomorrow, when you wake, look closely at the world around you. Listen carefully to the voices of your neighbors. Pay attention to the small miracles that happen every day. The way morning light transforms familiar objects into something magical. The way a shared laugh can bridge any distance between souls. the way a simple act of kindness can change the entire course of someone's day. Marcus settles back into his bed, his body finally ready for the rest it has long needed. "Thank you," he whispers, though he's not entirely sure what he is thanking her for. "Thank you," she whispers back, "for dreaming such beautiful dreams, for yearning so deeply for wonder, for reminding me why this world and all its mortal inhabitants are so precious, so worthy of love and protection." As she speaks these final words, Artemis dissolves completely into moonbeams that dance across Marcus's room before flowing out through his window and dispersing into the night. The boy falls asleep within moments, his face peaceful, his dreams filled not with visions of distant places, but with gentle scenes of discovery and friendship, and quiet magic woven through the fabric of his familiar world. The goddess continues her journey through the village, bringing comfort to every sleeping soul she encounters. To the young mother whose infant has been colicky and difficult, she brings dreams of peaceful afternoons and the understanding that this difficult phase will pass, leaving behind only the sweetest memories of tiny fingers wrapped around her own. To the village elder, whose age has filled him with fears about his legacy, she brings visions of all the young people he has guided and influenced, showing him how his wisdom lives on in their choices and actions, how his life has created ripples of goodness that will continue long after his earthly story ends. Each house she visits becomes a little brighter, a little more peaceful. Each troubled sleep transforms into restorative rest. Each worried dream dissolves into gentle visions of hope and possibility. By the time she has walked through every quiet street and touched every restless soul with her blessing, the entire village rests in deeper peace than it has known in many months. But Artemis's work is not yet finished. As the first pale hints of dawn begin to appear on the eastern horizon, she makes her way beyond the village boundaries to the wild places she loves best, the olive groves and meadows, the streams and hillsides where her animal children make their homes. Here, too, she finds souls in need of comfort, a family of foxes whose den was disturbed by recent storms, huddled together anxiously in a makeshift shelter. With a gentle breath, Artemis guides them to a new home, a cozy hollow beneath the roots of an ancient oak, perfectly sized for their needs and protected from both weather and predators. A young owl separated from its family during a fierce wind perches alone on a branch, calling plaintively into the night. Artemis approaches with steps so silent that even the owl's sharp ears cannot detect them. She does not need to speak. Her presence alone is enough to calm the frightened bird. Within moments, answering calls echo from the nearby forest, and the reunited family soars away together, their hoots carrying notes of pure joy. In a small stream that winds between the hills, she finds fish struggling in waters that have grown shallow during the dry season. With a gesture graceful as a dancer's movement, she calls gentle clouds to gather overhead. A soft rain begins to fall, not the harsh downpour that might frighten the sleeping villagers, but a tender precipitation that whispers against leaves and stones and fills the stream with life-giving water. As she works, Artemis feels the deep satisfaction that comes from using her divine power in service of love and healing. This is what she was meant for, not the fierce battles and dramatic conflicts that fill so many stories about the gods, but these quiet moments of comfort and care, these small acts of kindness that ripple outwards to touch countless lives. The eastern sky continues to brighten, painting the clouds in soft shades of rose and gold. Soon, the mortal world will wake to a new day, and her time in this earthly realm will come to an end. But as she begins her journey back to the celestial heights, Artemis carries with her something precious, the knowledge that she has made a difference, that her presence has transformed troubled sleep into peaceful rest, anxiety into hope, restlessness into contentment. She pauses at the meadow where she first touched the earth, turning to look back at the village now bathed in the gentle light of early dawn. Smoke begins to rise from a few chimneys as the earliest risers start their daily routines. She can see Theron the baker moving about his kitchen, humming a cheerful tune as he prepares his ovens, his face bright with the confidence that today will bring good fortune. She sees Elena hanging laundry in her garden, her movements light and happy as she thinks of the letter she will write to her daughter this afternoon, full of love and encouragement. And there, in the window of a small house at the village edge, she glimpses Marcus as he wakes naturally and easily, stretching like a contented cat before rising to greet the day. His eyes are bright with curiosity as he looks out at the familiar landscape, and she knows that he is seeing it with new eyes, not as a prison or a limitation, but as a treasure house of undiscovered wonders waiting to be explored. The goddess smiles, her heart full of the sweetest satisfaction. This is why she walks among mortals in the quiet hours before dawn. This is why she chooses compassion over power, healing over conquest, gentle presence over dramatic intervention. In these small moments of connection, in these simple acts of comfort and care, she finds a joy more profound than any that her divine palace can provide. As the sun crests the horizon and fills the world with golden light, Artemis begins her ascent. Her form becomes lighter, more translucent, until she is once again pure moonlight and starshine. She rises through layers of morning clouds, past the realm where eagles soar, beyond the boundary between earth and sky, until she reaches her celestial home where crystal walls catch and reflect the first rays of dawn. But even as she settles once more upon her throne of moonstone and starlight, even as the familiar comfort of her immortal palace surrounds her, Artemis knows that she will return. She will always return, whenever mortal hearts call out in the deep of night, for comfort, for peace, for the gentle assurance that they are not alone in their struggles and dreams. For this is her true nature, her greatest joy, her most sacred purpose, to be the goddess who walks softly in the hours when the world sleeps, bringing comfort to troubled souls and sweet dreams to weary hearts. She is the keeper of peaceful nights and gentle mornings, the guardian of quiet hopes and whispered prayers, the divine presence who reminds all living things that they are loved, they are valued, and they are never truly alone. And so, as you settle into your own peaceful sleep, remember that somewhere in the space between starlight and shadow, between dream and waking, Artemis continues her eternal vigil. Her love surrounds you like the softest blanket. Her peace flows through your dreams like the gentlest stream, and her presence ensures that even in the darkest night, you are held in the embrace of infinite compassion and care. Sleep now, dear dreamer, and let the moonlit footsteps of the goddess carry you into the deepest, most restorative rest you have ever known. Tomorrow will bring its own adventures and discoveries, but tonight belongs to peace, to dreams, and to the gentle magic that watches over all who sleep beneath the star-filled sky. The end